Have you ever found yourself looking at the clock, waiting for it to be time to leave work, wondering, am I going to spend my whole life doing this? Traffic, meetings, deadlines, the same routine, the same alarm in the morning, the same tiredness at the end of the day. And the craziest thing, even after years of working, it seems like the money barely makes ends meet. Now, think about it. What if you could stop this cycle? What if there was a way in which instead of selling your time, you could start buying freedom? Yes, there are people who have already discovered this. Ordinary people with no inheritance, no superpowers who today live off the money they built, while the whole world is still chasing their next paycheck. And do you know what the secret is? It's not lottery, scams, or luck. It's smart, consistent, and targeted decisions. And here comes the central point of this video. There are 7 investments. Just 7. That, if used well, can allow you to quit your job and live off the income they generate. Forever. Of course, this doesn't happen overnight, but what you're going to see here today is different from anything you've ever been told. It's not about getting rich overnight. It's about building something that pays you month after month, even when you're no longer exchanging hours for money. If you watch until the end, you'll understand exactly how to set up this structure. You'll see that this so-called financial freedom is not just a distant dream, it's an equation. And it starts with these 7 gears that, together, can become a lifelong income machine. So grab your coffee, sit back in your chair, because what you're going to learn today could be the first step towards never having to depend on a salary again. Before talking about numbers, graphs, or dividends, we need to talk about what really separates those who achieve freedom from those who remain trapped. Mentality. The naked truth is this. You will not free yourself from your salary if you continue to think like someone who lives off a salary. And I know this may sound uncomfortable, even a little harsh, but sometimes the truth that bothers you the most is precisely the one that most needs to be said. Most people were trained from an early age to think like this. Study, get a good job, work hard, retire after 40 years. But no one stopped to explain that this path was created to keep you functioning like a cog, not as someone free. Meanwhile, people who live off their own income see the game differently. They understand one simple thing that changes everything. Money was made to work. Yes, your money can and should generate more money. It doesn't have to be a lot at first, but it needs to move. It needs to produce. And those who don't understand this end up stuck in that silent cycle. Salary, bills, debts, exhaustion. One month after another, one decade after another. The good news? You can break this cycle. And you don't need $1 million to get started. You need a change of direction, and that change starts here, now. It all starts with a simple but powerful question. What can you buy today that will continue to put money in your pocket every month, even if you're no longer working? That's the difference between spending and investing, between accumulating things and accumulating freedom. Most people buy liabilities, things that drain money. Those who achieve financial independence buy assets, things that put money back in. And the craziest part? You don't even have to be a genius or predict the future. You just have to start thinking like someone who doesn't depend on their salary. And act as if your freedom is being built with every decision you make today. That's what separates those who wait for Friday from those who live as if every day were Friday. Now that you understand this, we can start assembling the base of your lace machine. Let's start with one of the quietest and most powerful pillars of financial freedom, dividend-paying stocks. These stocks are like dairy cows. You take good care of them. Choose the best ones, and over time, they give you milk every month without you having to sacrifice the animal. Unlike the stocks that everyone keeps an eye on to buy low and sell high, here the magic is in the continuous payments. You buy a share of the company and that share starts working for you. Think about it. Coca-Cola, one of the most recognized brands on the planet. Do you think it will stop selling soda tomorrow? Number. Do you think it makes little money? No way. It makes billions of dollars a year and distributes part of that to shareholders. That is, to the owners of the shares. And guess what? You could be one of them. The same goes for giants like Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, PepsiCo, McDonald's, Chevron. These companies have decades of growth and regular dividend payments. Some have more than a century of growth. Some of them have never stopped paying, even during crises, pandemics, wars, or recessions. There is a group called dividend aristocrats, which brings together companies that have increased their dividends every year for at least 25 years in a row. This means that even when the economy is doing badly, these companies continue to pay you and pay more. Now, let me paint a scenario for you. You have a portfolio of stocks built up over the years. You didn't buy everything at once. You started with little, invested a little more every month, reinvested the dividends. 5 years go by, then 10. Today, while you sleep, your dividends are generating automatic deposits of $3,000 per month, and this amount increases every year, even if you don't invest a single cent. You no longer depend on your boss. You don't have to beg for a raise. You no longer live in fear of being fired. You built your own payroll. And you know what's even crazier? You did it without working overtime, without starting a business, without taking unnecessary risks. You just understood a simple rule. Whoever has the right assets receives a share of the system's profits every month. And make no mistake, you don't have to be rich to get started. You have to be intentional. Investing $200, $300, or $500 a month in dividend stocks may seem like a small amount at first. But it's how you plant a tree that will give you shade, fruit, and freedom in the future. While most people are stuck trying to save $5 on coffee, those who think like investors are thinking, how can I make my money generate an extra $500 a month for the next few years? That's the difference between someone who works for money and someone whose money works for them. And dividends are the first step to that. But it doesn't stop there. Because if you combine this strategy with the next ones I'll show you, your income machine can turn into something much bigger, something that truly sustains your entire life. Second investment. How many times have you heard the phrase, "Those who own property never go broke"? But in practice, no one talks about the hidden side of being a traditional landlord. The tenant calling at 2 a.m. because the heater broke. The stress of months with the property empty, accumulating costs and zero return. And the real fear of investing all your savings in a house that may not appreciate as you expected. Now, take a deep breath. And imagine that you could have access to the best properties in the country without having to buy any of them. Welcome to the world of REITs, real estate investment trusts. It's like getting into the luxury real estate game but without needing millions. When you invest in REITs, you are buying shares in companies that manage gigantic portfolios of properties. And these properties are of the highest quality. Hotels that host executives and tourists every day. Logistics centers that drive American e-commerce. Entire buildings rented by giants like Google, Meta, and Apple. Even nursing homes and hospitals are sectors that don't stop even in times of crisis. And here's one of the biggest secrets. These funds are required by law to distribute 90% of their net profits to their shareholders. In other words, if the REIT makes a profit, you receive it. There's no discussion. There's no retention. The money comes to you. This is passive income in its purest form. And we're talking about stable returns, between 4% and 8% per year, much higher than most savings accounts or government bonds. But here comes the part that almost no one realizes. REITs are like real estate on steroids, because unlike owning a single apartment, here you have access to instant diversification, professional management, dramatic risk reduction. Liquidity. You can sell your position at any time directly on the stock exchange. Growth. Many REITs reinvest part of their profits to buy more properties and expand their portfolio. And all this with an initial investment so low that it fits in the pocket of almost any American. Think about it. If you had $500,000 invested in REITs, you would be generating an income of between $25,000 and $40,000 per year. That's between $2,000 and $3,300 per month without doing absolutely anything. But even if you don't have that amount today, the secret is to start with what you have and reinvest the dividends. You plant a brick a month, over time, you have a building. Later, you have an entire city working for you. And there's more. REITs also offer a hedge against inflation. Many rental contracts are adjusted annually, which means your income goes up along with the cost of living. And that's not all. Some REITs specialize in strategic sectors, such as data storage, data centers, cell towers, used by carriers such as Verizon and AT&T, industrial warehouses linked to e-commerce essential stores that continue to operate even in difficult times. In other words, while the market fluctuates and the economy goes through ups and downs, these funds continue to operate. They continue to generate revenue. And they continue to pay you. It's the difference between betting everything on a single property and building a true real estate empire, where each building works silently in your favor. That's financial intelligence. That's investing with a vision for the future. And that is just the second investment on our list. If REITs build their income base with stability and predictability, the next investment I'm going to show you fuels the growth engine. Third investment, growth ETF. If dividends are the basis that guarantees stability, growth is what takes you to the next level. It is the engine that accelerates your freedom. And when we talk about growth, we are talking about investing in companies that not only exist, but are transforming the world. This is where one of the smartest and most accessible tools on the market comes in: growth ETFs. Instead of trying to choose the next Amazon, the next Tesla, or the next Google on your own, you can buy an ETF that already selects a basket of the most promising companies for you. Want some examples? The Vanguard Growth ETF, VUG, focuses on companies with growing profits, innovation, and market leadership. ARKK from ARK Invest targets disruptive technology such as artificial intelligence, biotechnology, autonomous vehicles, blockchain. It's as if you were putting your money on the front line of the future. Now, pay attention to this. These companies may not pay dividends today because they are reinvesting everything in their own growth. But this growth can multiply your wealth in a way that no salary would be able to keep up with. Imagine an investment that doubles, triples, or even quadruples in 5-10 years. That's what we're talking about. While the previous assets pay you month after month, this one makes your pie grow. And here comes the smart move. You don't have to live off these ETFs forever. You use them to accumulate wealth faster. Later on, when you have accumulated a good amount, you can sell part of the positions at a profit and convert this capital into income-generating assets such as dividends and REITs, which we've already discussed. It's like planting a strong and robust tree, and then harvesting the fruit for the rest of your life. This is the investment that requires a long-term vision. It requires patience, but it's also the one that can speed up your financial journey by years. And here's a detail that few people talk about. Investing in growth ETFs helps you avoid making emotional mistakes. You don't have to try to guess which stock will boom tomorrow. The ETF already takes care of that. It automatically updates the portfolio, leaving only the companies with the best performance and potential. And more, you have instant diversification, because you are exposed to dozens or even hundreds of companies at the same time. In other words, even if one or another does not perform so well, the group continues to advance. It's like getting on a bullet train of innovation. You don't need to drive, you just need to be in. And remember, growth is not just about money, and it's about time. It's about being able to choose, and it's about the freedom to say no to a job you don't like and yes to a life you built intelligently. This is the third pillar of our journey. And now that you understand how to grow faster. Fourth investment, property for rental. Now we leave the digital world and the screens, and we step with both feet on the ground, literally. Because despite all the technology and innovation, A roof over our heads is still a basic need, and that will never change. That is why investing in physical properties for rental continues to be one of the most solid and proven ways to generate passive income in the long term. But wait, we are not talking about buying any house on impulse. We are talking about using the real estate market intelligently, almost like a game of chess. Let's see. When you buy a property in a good location, with high rental demand, and with a good financing structure, what happens? You use the bank's money to buy the property, and the tenant's money to pay the bank. In other words, the asset is yours, but it is the tenant who helps build your equity month after month. And when the mortgage is over, everything that comes in becomes clean profit. It's as if you created your own mini-brick savings account that pays you month after month, come hell or high water. And just look at this quick calculation. Suppose you buy a property for $250,000 and rent it out for $2,000 a month. If the mortgage costs $1,300, $1,400 a month, you're already starting out with a positive cash flow. Now multiply that by 2, 3, 5 properties over the years. You're building a real treadmill of predictable monthly income that grows over time. And here's a detail that few people realize. Well-managed properties tend to appreciate over time. So, in addition to the monthly income, you also accumulate equity. It's a two-way street, cash flow plus appreciation. And what's more, rents tend to rise with inflation. In other words, while the price of everything increases, your passive income also follows suit. But perhaps the most powerful point of this type of investment is control. Unlike stocks, ETFs, or funds, real estate is physical and in your hands. You decide where to buy, how much to charge, how to renovate, and how to rent it. This gives investors something rare in the market: decision-making power. And if you don't want to get involved in the management, you can use property management companies that take care of everything for you, for a monthly fee. In other words, you can have the benefits of renting without dealing directly with maintenance, tenants, or bureaucracy. But here's the most interesting part. Did you know that there are cities in the U.S. where the return on rent is higher than many traditional financial investments? Markets like Cleveland, Memphis, Indianapolis, Kansas City offer cheap properties with a return of over 8% per year on rent alone. These are less popular places, but with real and growing demand. This is where the most attentive investors are hunting for opportunities before the rest find out. Ultimately, a well-chosen rental property is more than an asset. It's a lifetime income with a fixed address, a piece of the world that works for you even when you're sleeping. And here's a final question to make you think. If someone paid you $2,000 a month to own a house, how many houses would you like to own? That's right. Now imagine this for a second. You wake up on a random Tuesday. You open your phone, and there's a payment notification. Someone on the other side of the country just bought your digital product while you were sleeping. You weren't in a meeting. You didn't have to clock in or leave your house. That's the power of a well-built digital business. And look, we're not talking about going viral. It's not luck. It's not a lottery. It's a business model, structured, replicable, and that scales intelligently. And the beauty of all this? You can start with almost zero capital. What you really need is to know how to solve a specific problem for a group of people. If you have that, you can monetize. A practical example. I know a woman who worked as a teacher and, in her spare time, put together a course teaching how to prepare children for literacy at home. The result? More than $20,000 per month with something she recorded just once. All automated. Everything is running on autopilot. Another guy who was a graphic designer created a template library on Canva. He charged $9 a month. Not many people at first. Today, he has over 3,000 subscribers. Do the math. And you might even think, but the market is saturated. Saturated for those who do the same as everyone else. But those who understand the niche, deliver real value, and build a community, never run out of audience. Let's talk about the types of digital companies that work today. Digital products. Ebooks, spreadsheets, templates, printable files, everything that can be downloaded and used. Online courses, you transform your experience into video lessons and charge for it. Membership, Club Chi subscription, exclusive monthly content for a fixed fee. Affiliates, promote third-party products and earn commission per sale. Software or digital tool, more technical but extremely scalable. Dropshipping or print on demand, online stores without the need for inventory. But let's be honest, it's hard work at first. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to spend nights building websites, writing, editing, testing ads. And at first, you might not even see an immediate return. But this also happens when you start out in the stock market, buy a property, or invest in REITs. The difference here is control. You have total power over the business, and the return can be much faster and more aggressive. And when the machine gets going, everything changes. You leave survival mode and enter expansion mode. You start to scale, automate, delegate, and suddenly you realize that that side project has become your main source of income. Many people who quit their jobs and now live off their income started this way, creating something small in their spare time, validating an idea, growing step by step. And why is this an investment and not just a job? Because when well built, a digital business becomes an asset. You can sell it, you can license your content, you can earn from ads, partnerships, royalties, recurring revenue. It's something that generates income with or without you. And the most impactful part, it can change your life before it changes your bank account. It gives you confidence, independence, clarity of purpose. So if there's one thing you should start exploring this year, it's this. Not because it's easy, but because it's possible. Now, take a deep breath, because this part is about solidity, about playing chess while the rest of the world rolls dice. Fixed income may not be exciting. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't make headlines. It doesn't give you that adrenaline rush of, will it double tomorrow? But you know what it does? It supports you, silently, and with precision. It's the financial equivalent of that trustworthy friend who's always there when everything falls apart. And that's more valuable than it seems. Let's get practical. Imagine you have a diversified portfolio. Half of it is exposed to stocks, REITs, growth, real estate, maybe even crypto. But what if all of that drops 30% at once? What's going to stop you from selling in despair? The part of your portfolio that keeps generating income. The part that isn't shaken by market emotions. And that's where smart fixed income comes in. Real example, tips. Treasury inflation-protected securities. Inflation-protected securities. They don't just pay you interest. They increase payments when the cost of living goes up. In other words, while the world complains that everything is more expensive, your bond is paying more. It's an automatic protection. No effort, no secret. Another example? Corporate bonds. You lend money to companies like Google, Apple, or even traditional banks. In exchange, they pay you fixed interest, and often with less risk than leaving the money sitting in certain bank accounts. But there's another trick up your sleeve. Municipal bonds. Bonds issued by local governments like states or cities to finance schools, roads, hospitals. The interesting thing? They are exempt from federal tax. In other words, even if they yield a little less on paper, what's left in your pocket is greater. For those looking to live off their income without being devoured by the IRS, this is gold. Now let's talk about a real strategy. The bond ladder. Instead of investing everything in a bond that matures in 10 years, you build a ladder with several steps. A bond that matures in 1 year, another in 2, another in 3, and so on up to 10 or more. What happens? Every year, a bond matures and you receive back the amount invested with interest. This creates a constant, predictable, manageable cash flow without the stress of depending on a single maturity date in the future. It's like creating your own payroll. except that you're the one who receives it, and the system is the one who pays it. And what's more, you can use these maturities to reinvest, taking advantage of the current interest rates. Or simply, live in peace. Think about it. If you have $500,000 invested in a well-designed ladder, earning 5% per year, we're talking about $25,000 per year, or more than $2,000 per month, coming in without fail, without waking up early, without clocking in, without having to please any boss. And do you know what the most overlooked detail about fixed income is? It allows you to make mistakes in the other parts of your portfolio. Because while the most volatile assets will go up and down like a roller coaster, fixed income will be there, constant, predictable, safe. It's your seatbelt. It's the cushion that protects you from falling. And sometimes it's what pays the rent when the rest of the portfolio is bleeding. Don't underestimate this investment. The rich don't underestimate it. In fact, many of them live off fixed income after they've already accumulated wealth at risk. They invest millions in bonds, live off the interest, and sleep soundly. This is the final stage of freedom, when your money is safe and working for you. Now, if you've made it this far, congratulations. But I promised you 7 investments. And the last one is the most important of all. It has no ticker, it's not on the stock exchange, and yet it's the most powerful on the list. In the next block, you'll discover the most profitable, most scalable, most irreplaceable asset there is. Now, we come to the only investment that no one can take away from you. That doesn't depend on the economy, the government, interest rates, or the market's mood. You. And before it sounds like motivational talk, listen to this. Imagine someone who invests $1,000 in stocks. It can yield 10%, maybe 15% in a good year. Now imagine someone who invests that same $1,000 in a course that teaches copywriting, programming, digital marketing, design. That investment can generate thousands of dollars per month, because now that person has a skill that the market needs, a tool that they carry in their pocket, something that no one can confiscate. You are an asset. But unlike an ETF, you can multiply yourself infinitely, and each new skill you acquire is like adding another gear to a machine that only accelerates. You can learn to invest better, to sell better, to negotiate, communicate, lead. You can learn to solve problems that no one else can solve. And when you do that, something magical happens. Money starts to follow you. Want a real example? There are people who studied video editing for 3 months and now earn $3,000 a month working from home. There are those who learned to program using free YouTube videos and now receive international job offers. There are content creators who started from scratch, without a camera, without a script, just with the desire to learn. And today they live exclusively from that. Why? Because there is no ceiling for those who master a valuable skill. The world pays, and pays well, for those who know how to solve real problems. Do you want to set up an online business? Before spending money on ads, learn how traffic works. Before hiring an agency, learn how people make decisions. Before investing in a company, learn how to read a balance sheet. You don't need to become an expert in everything, but you need to be dangerous enough in key areas. Because when you know enough, no one can fool you. No one can fool you. And no one can boss you around. And that's priceless. And there's one more thing. While all the other investments on this list can fluctuate, stall, or even lose value, you can keep growing. No matter the crisis. No matter your age. No matter where you're starting from. The most powerful asset on the planet is knowledge. And it doesn't expire. It doesn't melt. It's cumulative and transformative. So here's the truth that few people talk about. There's no point in knowing about stocks, real estate, or passive income if you haven't yet invested in becoming someone who makes good decisions. Because in the end, it's your decisions that buy the right assets. It's your discipline that holds you steady in difficult times. It's your vision that sees opportunities before others. And that comes from within. From you, So study, practice, invest time, energy, and focus in yourself, because in the end, you are the only investment that guarantees a return for life, and that's why it closes this list. So now you know, freedom doesn't require 50 crazy investments or 100 secret tricks. There are 7, just 7. 7 gears that, when they start turning, build a machine that works for you even when you sleep, travel, or decide to simply live. Dividend stocks, REITs, growth ETFs, rental property, digital company, fixed income, and yourself. These are the 7 pillars, your map, your plan B, or maybe your plan A, if you have the courage to turn the key. But here's what no one tells you. Knowing this doesn't change anything. Acting on it changes everything. You can leave this video inspired and still be stuck in the same cycle if you do nothing. Now, if you take the first step, even if it's small, the game starts to change. Because the sooner you plant, the sooner you harvest. And the harvest, my friend, is not just money. It's peace. It's control. It's time. It's the power of choice. Imagine this. You wake up on a Tuesday. You don't have an alarm clock. You don't have a boss. You don't have urgent emails. And yet, your bank account grew while you were sleeping. This is not utopia. This is the cumulative effect of smart decisions. And each of the 7 investments we saw today is one of these decisions. You can build this freedom little by little. You don't have to start with a lot, but you do have to start with clarity and with consistency. Maybe now you're thinking, okay, but where do I start? Start with 1. Just 1. Choose the one that makes the most sense for your reality today. Maybe it's an ETF. Maybe it's a book about digital business. Maybe it's opening an account with a brokerage firm and buying your first share. The important thing is to create the movement. Because what starts small transforms over time. Every empire starts with 1 step. And one day, when you least expect it, you'll look around and realize that your life has changed. Not because you got lucky, but because you had vision. You planted when everyone else was still chasing a salary. And now, money works for you. If this inspires you, do the following. Comment below. Which of these 7 investments will you make in your life this year? Write it down. Commit to yourself. And if this video sparked something inside you, share it with someone who needs to hear this. Someone who deserves a life where time is worth more than salary. And you've just taken the first step. See you in the next video. Now go for it. Your future won't build itself.